We are going to make a cobweb broom. We're going to kind of leave the hurl alone and start messing with some knurl. Remember the difference between knurl broomcorn and hurl broomcorn is that hurl is processed broomcorn and it does not have the stem on it like this one does. Okay. So today we're going to start actually doing a plait or braid on a cobweb broom. So when you're starting out, a cobweb broom is probably the easiest thing to start out with. So here's what you need: a hammer, some sort of a broomstick, some kind of a cutting device like an X-Acto. You can have scissors, that's fine. And then I have my broom cutting knife. And you know, I have checked these out, and from what I understand, you can have any kind of a knife that's sharp and will work just as fine as buying a designated broom knife. So there you go. So we're going to start out, oh, and some broom nails. So we're going to start out by tapping in a broom nail. Now, if I was using about 3 fingers, I think 3 or 4 fingers, we'll go 4. If I was using like something that I was out strolling around, I said, oh, this is a nice stick. It's kind of at an angle, isn't it? And I wanted to make that the handle. What I would do is I would lay that stick. First of all, I would take it and bang it on a tree, and if it doesn't bust, bingo, you got a broomstick. That's kind of at an angle, but it doesn't matter because really all this does is keep the string up. Okay, so before you start, you always want to make sure that you have a jerk string. Okay, so let's real quick talk about jerk strings and how to make them. Jerk string is like 12 to 16 inches of string. I don't know why that has a knot in it, but so I'm just going to take that, and then I'm going to make, I'm going to double it's what I'm going to do. Okay, and I'm going to take the raw ends, and I'm just going to put them around my finger like that, open it up a little bit, and put it through. Just an overhand knot. Okay, so that's about 12, 16 inches. And I don't want it real long because I'm going to jerk it quick through at the end of it. So it's always good to have a couple just waiting there for you in case you misplace one, because you can't get any nylon off the spindle and you're all wrapped up in making your broom. Okay, so the first thing I want to do is I want to put just an overhand loop on this. Okay, and then I'm going to put a knot that I want it to slide on this long piece, not the short piece, and this is what I do. So I've got 2 fingers, and I'm going to loop it over it. There where it intersects, in fact, I'm going to bring this down a little bit, where you get the X, right? See the X? I'm going to hold it there. I'm going to turn that loop upside down, and then with my other hand, I'm going through the loop and bringing that up, okay? So then I don't have a real long piece of nylon there. Okay, I am right-handed. And that means that I want to do my plating with my right hand. In order to do that, I'm going to put that on top of the nail. In order to do that, I need to make sure that my broomcorn is underneath my table or to the left-hand side because I am right-handed. Okay, so I'm going to move this out of the way now. The thing with knurl broomcorn is you have to soak it. See, my stuff's over here soaking in some warm water, and you know, about a half an hour in hot water should do it. The other thing I'm going to do, I'm going to back this up a little bit. When I start, I want to make sure that I have enough broomcorn for this particular project out and ready for me. So I'm going to say it's going to be an odd amount for this to work, and I'm going to say it's going to be about 7 to 9. Now, let me give you a quick lecture on pretties. and uglies, as I call them. Everybody has a purpose, but let me talk to you about that for a little bit. So if you look on these, you'll see some of them are thicker and shorter than others. That's kind of a short one. So that would be a good one for a cobweb broom. The shorter ones would be, so there's like 3, or they'd be good for making shoulders, but we'll get to that. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Oh, let's see, 8. I'm just gonna put 9 up here. And the other ones I want to show you then are the ones that are thinner and more tapered and longer. So I call these my pretties. And I'll use those when I want to do a nice long braid on the outside. So for this particular project, I don't need long and pretties because I'm not going to make a real long braid. But like I say, everything has its purpose. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure that this is coming off the top of the spindle, and I'm going to wrap 3 times. Okay, so what I do to make sure that I have an odd amount is that the first piece that I put in, and I want to put it a little bit above the connection here, because if it's going to bust, it'll bust more like right there. So a little bit up from that, and I'm going to crease it. And you notice I only put in 1 that time. So as I go around here now, I'm going to put in 2, and that way I will guarantee myself that I have not screwed up and not made an odd amount on this. Okay? Because in order to plate, you have to have an odd amount, or braid, whatever you want to call it. So I'm putting in 2 at a time, and then I'm creasing it. Okay, and remember, I don't want to be right on that connection. I want to be a little bit further down, and I crease. So I can probably get 2 more in here, so 9 was a good guess on this. Depending on the width of your broom handle that you're using. So these are just, you know, 3/4 dowels, I think is what they are. So I'm going to wrap for about 4 times. And you can't see me. So I'm going to wrap for about 4 times. And I can see where I started because I can see that piece of nylon coming out there, okay? So that tells me, oh good, well it's time to start braiding. So the way that you braid is broom corn goes up and down very well. It does not go side to side very well. So when you are doing your plait or your braid, you're going to bend it down a little bit, push that up, put it underneath. Here's your secret. Take this finger here and pull that over and then crease it. And it's just over and under. So that one's under, this is over. Down we go a little bit, pull that over and crease. Bend it down underneath there, pull it over a little bit and crease. Now, if I did this right, see how that popped? Wasn't real wet, was it? So this is at the beginning. So we've gone around about 4 times, and I'm gonna start my braid. So I wanna drop that down underneath. Here's the big secret. Use that finger, pull that over, slide it down, and then crease it. Okay, so I pull that over with that finger and pull it a little bit, give it a crease. Down we go and pull it a little bit. Now if I did this right, when I come around here, because I have an odd amount on here, you see this is a continuous weave. If it wasn't, it wouldn't work. So I am limited to the amount of plaiting and or braiding, whatever you want to call it, by the length of the knurl. Okay, so if I had wanted a cobweb broom that was really, I wanted to do a whole bunch of plaiting on it, then I would use those long pretty ones, I call it. Okay, because I just want you guys to get the feel for plaiting. Once again, I cannot emphasize enough, if you want that to be a nice tight braid, use that left finger and bring it over. Then crease it. Okay? The magic is in that left, or depending on if you're right or left-handed, finger that is closest to the brushy side of the broom corn. So, what I'm going to do is I am going to go ahead and plait this out. And I see I've got this much here, so I've maybe got a couple more wraps. And that's going to be at the end of this one. Or a couple more rounds, I guess, not wraps. This looks pretty good for a cobweb broom. So I'm looking back here to see where I started. Okay, so I'm gonna lay my jerk string in. I'm right-handed, so I want the knot in my right hand. And I'm gonna lay that down there, and then I'm gonna wrap this whole thing, keeping that nice and flat, about 3 or 4 times. Without plaiting, making sure I don't wrap on top of that string because I want it to smoothly go underneath there, so about 3 or 4 times. And that looks good to me, so I'm going to hold my tension with my thumb, and I'm going to take my X-Acto, come down here and hit that. Then I'm going to switch my thumbs. I'm going to come back over here to this loop, and then that tail that I just cut. Okay, let's try it again. Here's my loop. That's that tail that I just cut. I'm going to pull that through there. This is a little bit long. I got the knot end of my jerk string. And I got a twist in it. Nope. What did I do? I got a twist in it. Okay, let's try it again. Pull it through. So if you need to tighten that up, you can tighten that around something and pull it up and tighten it up just a little bit. Okay, I would have liked that a little bit tighter, but I think that loosened up on me. And I had that problem with the jerk string. But anyway, so then I'm going to trim this up. So I'm going to take my spindle, and if you put pressure on this and then lift these up, they come off really nice. A little bit of pressure with your knife and just lift that up. So the next thing that we need to do with a cobweb broom is sew it down. So some people wait until these are dry before they do them. You don't have to do that, especially with a cobweb. So probably what I will do, get rid of that, is I will, so there's my nice plate on there. And I will grab some, I like to use wax linen. You don't have to use that. But in your kit you will have wax linen, just because I like the way it tightens up on a broom. So I tend to use that. We're going to do about 2 rows of sewing on the broom corn. Some people do 3, other people do more. You need to have at least 2. So that's next. Now, because this is not a flattened broom, it's a round broom, what I like to do is just use, and you don't have to do this, all the things you have to and don't have to do in broom making. I use, get it here, I use these a lot. You know, this is just a piece of reed. It doesn't have to be, it could be a piece of, could be a stick, but I'll take a rubber band and I put a lark's head around it. And then just to keep this together while I'm stitching, I'll put that around the broom corn. And then it just makes it easier for me to stitch. Remember that you came down 4 fingers, and if you pull through here, you'd see, oh yeah, about 3 fingers there, you can see the wood. Okay, so when you do your stitching, it needs to be below that end of your broomstick, or you're going to have trouble trying to sew around it. Okay, so I'm going to start about right here. So let me get my wax linen and my broom needle, and we'll get it sewed down. So here is my wax linen, and this is green because it's just my first grab. So I want to take about, you know, like 90 inches of wax linen, and that's generous. You probably won't need that much. And what we're going to do is we're going to, once again, double it. Okay. And what we're going to do to start out is we are going to take our fingers so that you have that folded end, not the raw end, the folded end, okay? And you want it over your thumb and your forefinger, okay? And you're going to take those two and bend them down. I try to do this slow, doesn't work for me. So I've got these two here, and I'm going to bend that down so it makes two loops. See those two loops? And then you put your two fingers together, and you have a lark's head. Yay! Okay. So then we're going to take that off. I've got my folded edge, and I'm going to hold that here, and I'm going to wrap around it twice. Okay, and then I'm going to make my loop. Bring that down. Okay, then I have my loop here, and I'm going to thread that through that. And then I'm going to tighten it up a little bit and stitch. Okay, so I'm going to grab the raw edge of my wax linen, and I'm just going to thread that through there. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to stitch diagonally underneath that wrap that I've gone around the broom with, and then when I do my stitches, I want them to look straight up and down. This is just one way of stitching. Not everybody does it this way. There is no one right way to make a broom. This is just the way I was taught. So some people go all the way through it twice and say that's good. That's fine too. In fact, I'll show you how they do that. Okay, so you can see that I've finished sewing it all the way around. So, you know, I've gone diagonally, and I've got these nice little stitches there. So, and you can also see that I've got way more wax linen than I needed. So, depends on the diameter of your project as to how much you're going to need. But I'm a true believer, and I'd rather have too much than not enough. So this is where I started, and I'm going to do that final one, and then this time I'm going to go all the way through it. Just pull that through, and then I'll cut it off. Now if you wanted to, and some people do this, you could take another stitch here and come back through, and that's fine too. All it does is just make it a little bit more solid. Okay. So, and I'm going to pull this off, and then I want to do at least one more row of stitching, and I usually do like 2 fingers down. So this time I'll do a little less on the green. And like I say, you know, I usually do like an arm's length. Oh, that's good. It's just a broom. So I'm going to take my nylon, and I'm going to double it, right? And then I'm going to take that loop end, and I'm going to put it here by the broom, and I'm going to go around twice. And then I need a lark's head. I'll tangle that a little bit. So to get that lark's head, I do the 2 fingers, shove them down. Point them down, and then bring those 2 fingers together. That gives me the loop that I'm looking for. And I'm going to put it through that loop and tighten it up. So I've actually got 2 rows, and that's a little bit tight and a little bit too far down. So I'm going to put that about right there. Now here's the other way that some people do it, and there's nothing wrong with this, and this is actually a shorter piece of linen, so it'll work better, I think. What they do is they just go through, and then they catch it over here, go through again, and then this time they're going to go opposite of it. So it's like you hit the 4 corners, and every time you come across, you grab your double wrap that you've done. There's nothing wrong with that. It's just another way to do it. So then what you would do is you'd pull it all the way through and then cut it. So works just as well. That might be a little bit tighter. It's just a personal preference, but there's 2 ways to do it. Now, the other thing that you want to do, like I said, so this is a cobweb broom. These work great for getting cobwebs. You'll never get on a stair step again trying to get your cobwebs, because these work wonderful. But you don't want your broom to sit in a corner and bend the fibers, right? So you really need to put a hole through here and put a, take some of this nylon and put a hole through it, and then thread a piece of nylon through it so that'll hang on something and it won't be bending in the corner. So there is your cobweb broom. So the next thing that we are going to do is next month is we are going to do a hearth broom, and we're going to be using that knurl again and working on our braid. So work on your cobwebs and try to get it real nice and tight. It should look like, well, it should be nice and tight and not real spaced out. That's what you're trying to shoot for. Okay? All right. We'll see you next month when we take on the hearth broom using knurl broom cord. See you then.